I've always believed that global success can be achieved from any pocket of the world. Being here in rural Cape Breton throughout the pandemic has proven this, not just for myself, but for entrepreneurs everywhere who've adapted and found opportunities in spite of significant challenges. So many people have inspired me throughout my career and continue to every day, from small business owners to international leaders. People across our country are taking risks and betting on themselves in pursuit of their passions. I'm launching these platforms to spark conversations about what it takes to succeed in business and life. If you want to stay connected and inspired, follow along. Today I will be speaking with arguably one of the most successful songwriters in today's music industry, Gordie Sampson. With many #1 and chart-topping hits and awards, even a Grammy under his belt, Gordie came from humble beginnings on Cape Breton Island and worked his way to the top of the music industry in Nashville, Tennessee. A musician, songwriter, producer, performer, and so much more, Gordie is truly a force to be reckoned with and is in very high demand for his talents. One of Gordie's most notable accomplishments as a songwriter is the multi-award-winning song, Jesus Take the Wheel, performed by Carrie Underwood, which awarded him and their team a Grammy Award in 2006. Gordie's written songs with and for some of the biggest stars in the music industry, including Keith Urban, Willie Nelson, LeAnn Rimes, Faith Hill, Jake Owen, Blake Shelton, and many others. On top of all this, in 2010, Gordie launched the Gordie Sampson Song Camp, where he and other prominent musicians and members of the music industry from across the globe give young Nova Scotian songwriters mentorship, tools, and insider tracks to take their careers to new heights. When the pandemic hit, much like all of us, he needed to adapt his career to a more virtual workflow. He packed himself and his family up and came right back here to continue working virtually in Cape Breton, in his hometown. It's conversations like these that I know will be good for your soul and will remind us all about the importance of hard work, believing in yourself, and reaching for those big dreams that you've been thinking about. Hey, Gordie.
Hi, how are
So
you?
nice for you to be here.
Nice to be here.
Really great. This is exciting to have you on our little podcast. You are such an amazing Cape Bretoner, Nova Scotian
Thank you. You too.
songwriter, singer. I think you play every musical instrument there is. But what an amazing story.
Thank you.
I was thrilled to have the privilege of giving you the honorary doctorate
right.
in 2013 from Cape Breton University.
Yep.
So cool, so cool. So let's start, Gordie, from the beginnings. I know Big Pond is where you grew up. I know your mom, I know your sister, love your family. Tell us how it all started. Tell us how Gordie Sampson made this transition from young boy to becoming an amazing songwriter, musician, etc.
Yeah, I mean, it is where I grew up for sure. You know, we grew up very country living. You know, my parents on my dad's side were French and Gaelic.
Okay.
Which in that
Yeah.
in that time would have been an uncommon pairing.
Combination. Okay.
Because neither one of them spoke English, I don't think. Certainly not very well.
Yeah.
So we ended up on the McKinnon's land grant, which would be my grandmother's.
So did you speak Gaelic as a kid?
No.
Did you understand it?
No.
No.
Just a
No.
few dirty words, yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's cool. So Gaelic and French. So you.
Yeah.
So Big Pond was where
Yeah.
home was. Yeah.
And then my mom's folks came from Sydney, Ashby.
Yeah.
And her, you know, she started playing music when she was literally 13, like live, because she played with my grandfather, who was a fiddler. So
Wow.
as soon as she was old enough to, you know, go to work,
Yeah.
she did.
Wow.
Yeah.
This Cape Breton is a music mecca of the world. I think per capita we probably have more cultural music than any other place that I know. How did you learn when you were a little kid? How did you pick it up? What did you do?
Most of it was from my mom.
Was it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And I learned it at a very early age. The earliest memory I have would be maybe I was 4 or 5 years old,
Yeah.
and coming down and playing, at a party or something.
Yeah.
What I knew, and everybody started clapping, and I started crying because
Yeah.
I was like, "What are you making this noise for?" Like,
Yeah.
so.
Wow. And was
I
it
do
memory?
remember-
Was it music memory? Could you read
No.
music at that stage? No.
No, and I still don't read very well, actually. But
No.
no, it wasn't that kind of formal training. It was just all ear, picking things up.
Wow.
And it remains to be seen. Some people say anybody can do that if
Yeah.
they're exposed to it, and some people say that you have to have some sort of predisposition to it.
Yeah.
I kind of think anybody can.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah.
if you're exposed to it,
Yeah.
that's a big part of it.
So, Gordie, one of my bucket lists is learning how to play the piano. So I bought a piano about 2 months ago, and I'm taking lessons. Hardest thing I've ever experienced in my life, but I'm gonna figure it out. I really am. What fun!
Okay.
So you're 4 years old. You you get the response of an audience. So you eventually see, wow, they're responding in a positive way to me. Tell me.
Sometimes I still cry when they clap.
Do you?
No, I'm just kidding. But sometimes I want to. If it's a really bad gig.
That's great. So teenage years. Tell us, how you pursued your craft.
I mean, in teenage years, I was, really into. This would have been late '80s, right? So I wasn't terribly into the music that was happening then. I was into the music from 10 years before that or so, or 15 years before that. A lot of rock stuff.
Yeah.
But honestly, there are so many genres that I listen to that I really don't claim one or the other. I didn't listen to a lot of traditional Cape Breton music then, because I don't think, one of the reasons maybe, that kind of music really does come in waves.
It does.
And I would venture to say, for my generation, the '80s, it was a dip.
Yeah.
It just wasn't appreciated
Yep.
by the young demographic. That changed
Yeah.
very drastically after high school
Yeah.
for me.
And do you think the broadness of your eclectic diversity of interest in music really helped you become a songwriter? And when did you start writing?
I would mess around. These ideas for things would sort of come into my head.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, when you're walking down the street or you're walking your dog and something you heard on the radio that morning is still in your head, and it's still, you can hear it playing a little bit. It's exactly like that, except you wrote the melody. Okay? And that's kind of how it started for me. And I think a lot of songwriters would tell you similarly, that it happens similarly.
And would
for
that
them.
be the lyrics or the music?
They often come together.
They
There's
come
there's no distinguishing one from the other. They often come at the same time.
Wow.
And it'll have holes in it, so you'll have a 4-line chorus.
Yeah.
And you're singing, you've got 2 lines, but you don't know what the 3rd and 4th lines are yet.
Yeah. Yep. And you work on those.
Yeah, and it happens, every song is different and has a complete different way of manifesting, I guess, in your head. It's very hard to explain, actually.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
Because it is complex.
It's complex,
I
yeah.
get that. I really get that. And so,
like Rita, for example, Rita McNeil wrote only in her head. So she would rock, and the melodies and all the lyrics would come. And then there was no chords to go with it. You'd have to find them for her.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's how she did her music. Wow.
Yeah, that's very, very, very unusual and uncommon way of
And
doing it.
she would have lived near you, right? In Big Pond. Were you influenced by her?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I grew up across the street and from where she was staying, kind of. So I would have been, 12 or something like that, right before she popped.
Okay.
And kind of, and kind of went global with her music. So, and I hung out a lot with her son Wade.
Yeah.
We played together. Wade's a good buddy. I see him now and again. But she'd come over. Mom would play the piano, and Rita would sing.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
and I got hired by Rita to be in her band, which was really cool because she was an obviously icon and a little bit of a family friend. And we're from this. I mean, I think my dad took her to the prom, honestly.
That's great.
At some point. But so now I'm in her band and we're playing shows but also doing Rita and Friends.
Yes.
The CBC Friday night, I think it was. It was one of the last bastions of, what do you call that? Like
like Anne Marie did those
show.
Jubilees and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, they did. They haven't really done much of that since.
No, they haven't. How long was she on? Was that 3 years?
I think it was 3 years.
Yeah.
And I did the second 2 seasons.
Okay.
But I was on the first year too with Real World as a guest, and
Okay.
also on again with Ashley.
Okay.
So, but I actually did every episode of year 2 and 3.
Wow.
So, and that was interesting because when I did the band would go in the recording studio at CBC and pre-record the audio.
Yeah.
And they would play a tape of that pre-recorded audio, and she'd sing live. So we were pretending to play what we already played yesterday.
Yeah.
And when I got there, they put a bunch of charts in front of me on a music stand, and I was like,
Duh.
I thought can I just take this back to my room and learn it?
Yeah.
And they're like, no, you have 15 minutes to play it. And I couldn't read.
No.
And
Wow.
the musical director, Tim Thorne, he actually just passed away a couple of weeks ago. I loved him. But he fired me. He said, Rita, I gotta let the boy go. I mean, he can't. So, and I was
Devastated.
devastated. I went back to my room, stayed up all night learning how to read charts, basically, and called in the other people from the band. It's like, I need help now. And meanwhile, Rita took the musical director into a room and just chewed him a big one right up and down and said, get that kid back in the band or you're fired. And at that point...
What a great story. I love her.
At that point, I was able to, I kind of bared down, was able to get through a chart. I mean, now I do it all the time, but I just didn't know it then.
Wow. That is such a great story.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, those were the days.
Yeah. But he would be, that musical director would be he would later go on to produce the Song Dog record for Jimmy Rankin, which I played a bunch of guitars on.
Yeah.
And that would be the joke every time he'd walk into the room. He'd be like, okay, Tim, are you going to fire me again, bud? Or...
That's great. That's great. You've got a good voice, too. I love your voice. And so when did you discover that? Same time?
Discover which?
Your voice.
Oh, my voice. Oh, gosh. I mean, just in high school, we would just camp.
Yeah.
Campy songs around a fire.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, singing whatever Steve Miller songs or John Cougar songs or whatever everybody wanted to hear. Whatever song would get you the girl, basically, is what you would do.
Worked, eh?
And then,
Yeah. So did you get a girl from Cape Breton?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
Huh? And what's her name?
Her name is Helen.
Helen.
Helen Musial, yeah.
Oh, yeah? And where is she from?
Dominion.
Dominion, okay. So you went, that was a bit of a distance, huh? Going back and forth to her house.
At that time, yeah.
That's great. That's super.
Yeah.
So then what happened? The first song that you wrote, do you remember it? Like that became a hit?
Well, first song I wrote that became a hit would probably be Sleepy Maggie, which is Ashley McIsaac's
Really?
kind of most known
Yeah.
song, and that was of course in Gaelic. So
Yes.
I wrote that with, and when I say I wrote it, part of it is traditional.
Yes.
So the writers are Ashley, Mary Jane Lamb, and Gordie, and traditional, because the tradition actually is a co-writer in the song.
I see.
Because that's the way it works when you borrow from that tradition. But that was my first #1 song.
Wow. How old were you?
20, 25, 20,
Wow.
25-ish.
Just a kid. So, Gordie, let's talk about when your career really took off. It was around late 90s, first album. Tell us about that time. Tell us about how you discovered that this was going to be the place you wanted to go. Tell us what those moments were like.
Well, I mean, throughout the 90s, I was in a local band here called Real World when I was really young, kind of right out of high school for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And then I went on to play with Ashley. Nope, sorry. Went on to play with, I don't know what order they're in. Rita, I think. No, Ashley, then Rita. Then the Rankins. I toured with the Rankins.
Okay.
So, like, for a big part of the 90s, I was a hired gun that would play guitar in your band, right? So while I was doing that, I was sometimes writing, certainly with the Rankins, I was writing with the band I was on tour with. So I ended up writing some songs with the Rankins that did really well.
Yeah.
And then when Jimmy did his songwriting, his solo record, I wrote some of that. But that would take us up to around, the mid to late 90s, 97 or so, when I made my first record.
Okay.
And actually, I was still playing with the Rankins then.
Yeah. Stones?
Stones it was called,
Yeah.
yep.
Yep.
And that was, like, I look back on that record now, and it's really scattered.
Yeah.
I just see, like, I don't even, when I sing, I don't really sound like that anymore. When I was trying to accomplish so many things. And a lot of people like the record. I'm grateful for that. But when I listen to it, it just sounds like somebody that's really confused. And then the next record I made, Sunburn, was the one I really bore down on.
Okay.
And it sounds tremendously different in a lot of ways from the first record. It's a lot more pop.
Yeah.
And at that time, there was a lot of influence from acts like John Mayer and Coldplay, were really starting to take off, those acts. And I was discovering John Mayer like a long time before he kind of came out. So he had 2 or 3 records I already knew every word to.
Yeah.
By the time anybody else heard it, So I was really inspired by those sounds. So it was a fairly dramatic shift.
So you knew then this was going to be your life. You knew this was going to be your career. You knew this was where you wanted to go.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I made the Sunburn record. It came out, and the Sunburn record, the second one, was by far the most dent in anything, because 2 of the songs on that record got cut by Nashville artists. At this point, we're into 2002, 2003. I'm spending more time in Nashville, and that record became a little bit of a cult down there at that time. If you went there now, no one would ever know. But
and why was it a cult? Because it was different?
It was just kind of an independent record that got around some circles and artists, country artists. Even though that record doesn't have much of a country influence at all.
Yeah.
A couple of artists sort of did slightly countrified versions of a couple of the songs. Keith did one, and Faith Hill did one.
Okay.
So at that point,
Keith and Faith Hill. Oh,
yeah.
Is that the only people?
Yeah.
Amazing, yeah. So they picked some songs up from that record. So you knew then.
Yeah, and at that point, I'm staring a record deal. I have a record deal on the table with BMG out of New York for me being an artist, and this new thing that's happening on the side that I never really predicted, which is my songs getting cut by other artists.
Yeah.
And
wow.
And
you had to make a choice, did you? Or...
you know, the record deal fell off the table. Like the CEO of BMG quit.
Okay.
Or it was fired or whatever it was, and a new one comes in, and all the deals on the table go with them.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
It's very common.
Yeah, yeah.
So that went away, and I kind of went, honestly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was
because I know I wasn't really, wasn't really born for that, like to live on a tour bus and tour.
No, you're not.
I'm really not that guy.
So that helped make your decision.
It did.
On what you pursued.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a great story.
Yeah, there was.
Wow.
Careful what you wish for.
Absolutely.
Stuff
It's
going on
interesting
there.
how those pathways work.
Yeah.
So transition from Cape Breton to Nashville. When did that happen?
I'd say late 20s. The first time I went to Nashville actually was with Fred Lavery.
Yep.
Because we were building a recording studio that still exists, actually. It's in Point Coney.
Yeah.
And we went to Nashville not for anything songwriting related, although I did write songs then, but to meet with the designer that
of the studio. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but while there, Nashville's incredibly magnetic.
Yes, it is.
It's like growing up as an actress or an actor and going to Hollywood for the first time, where you just go, this is where I'm going to end up.
And you knew that then?
Yeah.
Yeah, you did, eh?
I did, and after that, it's a lot like everyone else's story, where you get up and you sing your songs, and somebody's in the audience, and they literally, there's a guy that said, "My name is Fred. Get in the car."
Really?
And I was
and that's how. So he saw that your potential. You were.
He said, "I love your songs and all that stuff. I want to try and get you a publishing deal."
Wow.
And I said, "Sounds terrific."
Yeah.
And he did.
Wow.
And
is that the same publisher that you have today?
No.
No.
No. No. You often you
change.
You change them up.
You grow. Yeah.
Yeah. And exactly.
Yeah. So your very famous song that you won a Grammy for, Carrie Underwood sang, Jesus,
Take the Wheel.
Take the Wheel.
Yeah.
Wow. How long did it take you to write that song? And did she hire you to do that? How does it work?
No. As a matter of fact, when we wrote it, Carrie Underwood, sort of didn't exist in everyone's, mindset, because she was, she was the winner of American Idol.
Yes.
And when we wrote that song, it was about 6 months before American Idol, so we didn't know who we were writing that song for. We actually pitched it to, when I say we, it's really my publishers. Pitched it to a couple of artists, female artists, that passed on it.
Yeah.
But and when I tell people that, everybody goes, "Wow, they passed on it." But there has to be simpatico between the song and the artist. So there's no such thing really as a hit song right out of the box, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Somebody has to make that a hit, right? So. And so we found out she won American Idol, and we found out she had it on hold, and then we found out she cut it, and then we found out it was her first single. I mean, it was really just such a fun ride.
It was. And Carrie she also married a Canadian, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a real wonderful connection there.
Yeah.
But that was a great person to sing that song. I mean, it was spectacular.
Yeah, she's cool. She's it's not like I talk to her every day or anything, but I've written with her a couple of times since, and She loves to take off a good Northern Ontario accent because that's where Mike's from.
Yeah.
So she always goes, "Hey, Gordie, what's going on? You out for a rip, hey, buddy, or what?" You know, she's like, she loves that.
That's neat. I love that you're such a humble guy, huh? You really are. You're a star, and you come here to Cape Breton like every year. I think every summer you come, and you hang out with the rest of us, and it's really, really cool. Tell me what draws you back to Cape Breton all the time.
Oh my gosh. You know, to be honest with you, it's, I've had these discussions with my wife because we have different things that draw us back here. And hers is more social and friends and stuff like that. And of course, a lot of that is mine too. But it's kind of the land. It's like, I just am kind of bonded with the actual landscape. I know that's kind of hard to explain, but like,
I understand. Yeah.
I will get in my truck
Yeah.
and drive down some road in Ingonish
Yeah.
and come out in
Some
whatever,
cove.
some
Or
other cove on
yeah.
the other side of the island, and all by myself, and just feel like
Yeah.
there's really nothing better,
Yeah.
you know.
I think it's
So like and I'm writing country music a lot.
Yep. So it's perfect.
It's like, you know, a lot of those songs are about trucks going down a back road.
Yeah. Yeah.
In in a whole different accent, but for me, it's like I
Yeah.
can relate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what draws me too. We've got a place in the lake, and I live in Toronto, but it's a land. I mean, my family does. My whole family's here, but I'll tell you, it is the peacefulness and the connection to the land here, and it's so clean and beautiful, and the air and the water. When I get off a plane, I just smell the air, and it just gives me an amazing feeling.
Yeah.
So that's a big draw, huh?
There is.
So another big draw for you is your song camp, and I know how proud you are, and I love that you give back, and that you have developed this amazing song camp for potential artists, I think, in Cape Breton. But tell us a little bit about the song, how it started, and what you wanted to achieve out of it.
You know, we didn't really know all. There was a lot of blind faith at first. We kind of knew we wanted to do something that was co-writing based. Okay, so
Right.
there's many young songwriters across Nova Scotia that can write songs and are doing really well, but the notion of co-writing, which is what I do, is really kind of scary, honestly, for most songwriters, in the sense that you're walking in a room and you're collaborating with usually two other people.
Okay.
And try and get to me, if you could tap through that and get everybody accustomed to what that situation is,
Yeah.
and confidence boost
Yeah.
all the way through that, then the network here would flourish.
Yeah. And that's interesting. So it really is a collaborative effort to build songs, right? Which is that usual? Is it more people writing songs singularly than co-writing?
No, I would. You mean that by and large, the vast majority of songs you would hear in your car driving, or on a Spotify playlist, are going to be written by 3 to 5 people.
Okay.
Occasionally, they're written by 1 or 2.
Yeah.
It depends on the genre.
Okay.
But
So these kids come together, you bring them together, you bring other writers in from the United States, around the world, and they co-write songs together.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you get to kind of like, it's a little bit skate with the pros.
Yeah.
And that works great.
Yeah.
And they can observe, how they kind of do things. And everybody's very, I'll call in a lot of favors from people I get to work with.
That's great.
Over time. And they're, they have to be the right fit. They have to be, sort of giving enough. They have to be the kind of person, not every personality will be right for that.
Right.
Like,
who's your favorite co-writer? Who's your co-writer that has spent the most time with you at your song camp?
Well, my favorite writer would probably be Hillary Lindsay. That's who I write most of my. There's nobody I've written more songs with than
Really?
her.
Wow.
And she's just a.
That's why you're so good. You have a woman co-writer with you.
I know it.
Yeah, and you're very smart.
Yeah.
So where did you meet her? And
Oh, long ago. She was, her and my other good friend that I write with, Troy, were actually a couple then.
Okay.
And they kind of broke up at a certain time, but are still really good friends. And they're remarried now, and one sings at the other's wedding. And it's just like there's a kind of a core group of us, of 4 or 5 of us down there that are really good friends.
And you all live in Nashville. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
That is so cool. That is so cool. What? So have you ever? So who is your favorite singer, or who? Carrie Underwood has got to be one of your favorites, absolutely. But like, tell me, you have written songs for amazing people. Tell me some of the people that you have written songs for.
Gosh, all kinds of different people. I mean,
Miley Cyrus.
Miley Cyrus, Willie Nelson.
Willie Nelson. What did you write for Willie Nelson?
I wrote 2 songs on 2 different records. The most recent one would be a song called "My Favorite Picture of You," which is a song I wrote with Guy Clark, which was a really cool, thing to have. That song ended up on Guy's record and Willie's record.
Yeah,
so
I have heard him sing that song. I did not know it was you. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a beautiful song.
Thank you.
And what was the other song that you wrote for him?
It was called Songwriters, which was, it's actually called The Songwriters.
Yeah.
We were just making fun of ourselves.
Okay.
And it was like, we couldn't believe anybody would ever want to sing it. It's so foolish, but anyway.
And Keith Urban, you've written for him?
Yeah.
How many songs have you done for him?
You know, he just recorded one recently that I would have wrote it in East Bay here, actually. So if it makes his record, I think that would be 5, maybe, something like that.
And does he go to you? Does he look for? No.
No.
Your publishers represent. Is that how it works?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Like he'll. That can happen so many different ways too, but often it's it's me or one of my co-writers.
Yeah.
That goes, I'm going to text this song to Keith right now.
Yeah. Okay.
And
he listens.
And he listens. And using Keith for an example, I usually send him 1 or 2 songs every album.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't kind of send him more than that, because then it starts to get
cluttered,
annoying to him. So,
exactly.
So
how
it's
many
kind of a
songs do you write in a year?
About 125.
125 songs. Yeah. So that is, oh my God. So how many are you working on now?
I'm not working on any right now because it's July.
Good.
I usually pull the plug for July every year.
Wow. Wow.
And a little bit of August this year, just because last year with COVID, I usually take some time off in the summer, but last year I kind of worked through it because
me too. Yeah.
It was like, well,
what else is there to do? And we're here, right? So we're in vacation land.
That's right.
So we go outside and enjoy it a bit, huh? Yeah.
I like there's this thing I have called shrimp or scallops mode, which I'm trying to get in right now, which is a mode where the only decision of the day is shrimp or scallops. So right. I'm getting really close to shrimp or scallops.
But lobster season's almost over. Are you a lobster fan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Lobsters are great this year.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
They really, really are. So tell me about the pandemic. Tell me how so you're in Nashville, you say, look, do I want to stay in the city or do I want to come home to Cape Breton to spend time? Tell me how that decision worked. And I think you have a daughter too, don't you? Mm-hmm. And how did you make all of that happen? Tell us a little bit about that story.
Well, the pandemic hit, early March for us. We were actually in Florida on spring break, my daughter's spring break. And just really the 2 days before the pandemic, I mean, you remember it,
Yeah.
it ramped up really,
Really
hard.
fast.
And people were trying to process the information. I had a gig. I almost didn't want to do the gig. But they said, look, we washed down all the microphones. And,
Yeah.
and it was just like, wow, this is
Serious.
serious. I almost canceled it, but I went and did it.
Yeah.
And that's when, like, nobody was wearing a mask yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so we went to Florida.
You lucked out that you
And
didn't
of
get
course,
sick. Yeah.
in Florida, nobody was really that
Concerned.
with it, and by some standards, never were throughout the pandemic. But that's all right. So we came home and we locked down pretty hard. We had a storm too in the middle of it, so we lost power for
Yeah.
8 days.
Yeah. Oh God.
In the middle of a pandemic. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was a. It was, you know, it was tough.
Yeah.
So right around June, we headed home. We had to get a couple of. We had to reach out and do a little bit of, you know, searching
Yeah.
as to whether we could actually. At that time, you didn't know if you could cross the border.
Right. Yeah.
Without difficulty. So anyway, we got in, and now we'll be going back, you know, in early August.
Yeah.
But essentially what happened is we came home at the same time we did every year.
Yeah.
And we left at the same time we do every year. There's just
A whole year in
a
between.
whole year in between.
It's cool. It's cool. And
Yeah.
you could you're working from home?
Yeah.
Okay. Like you're still producing the same amount of songs?
Yep.
Yeah. And so how many, I didn't know that you also did gigs. And so how often do you do gigs?
When I'm in Nashville, not very often at
Okay.
all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. When
Just-
you're outside of Nashville.
Yeah.
Then
When I'm home, I'll do shows.
Yeah.
And occasionally there'll be something random that I'll fly up for. Maybe like Tennille Towns flew me up to Alberta.
Yeah.
Just before.
What
the
about in
COVID
Canso?
version.
Do you do Stan Rogers? Yeah. And is that's not going to be real in person this year either? is
Well,
it?
I did it this year. It was a virtual set of shows
Yeah.
that they did from the Cost Center in Pictou.
Yeah. Okay.
So I just did that actually a week and a half ago.
You opened it up, I think, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
Did you? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. He was a great artist too, huh? Did you know Stan Rogers?
No.
No.
He
Yeah,
died in like
yeah, you would've-
83, I
yeah,
think it
yeah,
was.
yeah, you would've
So
been-
I
yeah.
would have been 12 then.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
no, he's left a big mark.
Yeah.
Hasn't he? Particularly in the
Oh, yeah.
times. He really, really has.
Yep.
So tell me, what does your future look like? What does Gordie, what does like 5, 10 years down the road look like for you? You're still a baby.
You know, I think it won't be dramatically different than this year in the sense that, well, you know, I've always wanted to get to a place where there was a little bit of duality to our existence.
Yes.
And we just bought a place here this year.
It's great.
So it's nice to have a flag planted.
Yeah,
in
and
Cape
it's
Breton
totally
again.
opposite. It's like from Toronto to here at Long Island, where Stan and I have
Yeah.
our place. Totally, like concrete jungle to 10 acres on
Yeah.
on the most beautiful lake in the world, and the Bredor. And so I just I can really relate to that, because when you come here, you really come here. You leave that other stuff behind. And,
Yeah.
and when you're in Nashville, like when I'm in Toronto, that is so opposite for what I have here.
Yeah.
So it is really, it's a bit of an opposite situation, and it really works.
I agree.
Me too. Yeah.
But the sum of the parts are perfect, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's we're looking forward to, like, we've been able to come for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Every summer. We've never missed a summer in Cape Breton. And I think now when my daughter's in her last year of high school, so after that there'll be long summers.
Yeah, they will be.
Because this year we got to spend September here.
Yeah.
And which
Stunning.
I've been here for September in 15 years or
It's one of the
more.
best months.
Oh,
it's to die for.
It was unbelievable.
And October is great too.
Yeah.
No, it really is. It's no, and that's what I'm discovering too. I can stay longer now.
Yeah.
And to have this. If it wasn't for the pandemic, I'd still be playing with my month a year, and it's going to change, which is really cool. Yeah. No, it really is cool. So. I love your story. You are such a gift and a gem to Cape Breton Island. You really are, Gord.
Thank you.
Really love what you do. I know that when you're here, I was invited to a songwriter circle recently. I couldn't make it, but tell us about what you do while you're here besides the song camp.
Yeah. We I'll usually do a few shows. Hopefully they're songwriter circles because that's the way I enjoy. I enjoy those more than doing my own show because it's just more.
It's sharing. It's a lot of different people contributing, right?
Yeah, and everyone laughs and chirps at each other, and it's just really fun. So I'm seeing more of that happen around here, which is really nice.
It's nice, yeah. What's your favorite instrument? Guitar?
I mean, I'm a guitar guy at the end of the day.
But I've seen you play the piano.
Yep.
Yeah.
Started playing piano first.
Yeah. Can you play the fiddle?
Un petit peu.
Un petit peu. That's great. That's wonderful. Well, look, we are so happy to have you on Cape Breton Island, and at least not for all the time, but for part of the time. And so I love your story. I think it is an amazing story, and it's a story that I want to tell the rest of the country and the world, that this is a place where Gordie Sampson comes from. So cool. Thank you, Gordie.
Thank you so much, Annette.